Outspoken Owls, today we talk about how do we embrace the power of vulnerability. As Brene Brown says, vulnerability is not a weakness, it's our greatest measure of courage. And she highlights the transformative power of embracing our vulnerabilities. By embracing vulnerability, we open ourselves up to the possibility of experiencing genuine human connections and fostering empathy. It requires us to step out of our comfort zones, be authentic and transparent in our interactions, and let go of the fear of judgment. In doing so, we create an environment where we can flourish. And I know, Lynn, it's something that you've often spoken about. I've watched so many tech talks on vulnerability. I wish I knew about vulnerability 10 years ago. My life would have been different of 20 years ago. How has vulnerability enabled your personal growth and resilience?
Maybe I should just first start with how I see it and what for me is the simplest explanation or definition for myself of being vulnerable. And it's simple for me. I feel every time I feel that I'm out of my comfort zone. Every single time when something doesn't sit well with me, or I get that flutters in my stomach. It's even something simple like I like that person, and you feel that feeling, but you don't want to show it. Maybe that is being vulnerable. Okay, and so to answer your question, for me, embracing that, because before that again was something that instilled fear in me, and I guess a lot of people, it's you don't want to show those feelings, you don't want to show that discomfort with yourself or within yourself. But the moment you start understanding that that is actually what makes you human,
True. Yeah.
you know.
And for me, it's about self-discovery
Yes.
and self-acceptance.
And accepting.
And I think for me, it has encourages what you talk about often is our deepest fears that we've had, our insecurities that we have. And I've realized that as I got older, is my insecurities that I've had in my younger days versus now, you will always have different insecurities
Always.
in different times of your lives.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily the same insecurities always.
Yeah.
It will always be the difference. So it's for me, it was how do I use my vulnerability to overcome my challenges that that I'm facing, whether it's from a business perspective, whether it's a personal perspective, and learn from some of the failures that I've had over the years.
Absolutely. And then also, again, just understanding for myself again, and I always will bring it back to myself, because once I step into that space where I understand that accepting, acknowledging the vulnerabilities, acknowledging the discomfort, that is the first step. You need to acknowledge that this is a vulnerable emotion. And accepting that, and then when you work with it and not against it, that's actually when you embrace your vulnerability and use it as a power. Because when people see that, people love seeing realness in others.
But why do they want to see realness so much so? Because I think sometimes when you do let your guard down, and of course I don't like to let my guard down, is that I feel that it's so easy for people to judge me. And yes, I don't give a shit now.
Yeah.
But I think other people would. People do care about. People are people pleasers. They
Yeah.
do care. But who says I want everybody to see all of me?
No, not all of you.
Yeah.
But you choose.
I no. What I'm saying is that
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that they can't see all of me, that I'm not a trustworthy person.
No. So, but this is the thing. It's your power. Remember?
Yeah.
How do you embrace the power of your vulnerability?
Yeah.
The power. So you choose. You are still in control.
Yeah.
So you're in control of your emotions. You're in control of everything. But what you also, more than anything, what you're in control of is that you can be vulnerable, and it's your choice to be. So it's not a situation of being in any situation and you feel now that I have to do this.
Yeah,
I want to. I
it's
want to talk about what happened to me. I want to talk about how I'm dealing with the grief. I want to talk about how breaking up with this person is making me feel. I want to.
but I don't think, Lynn, that you'd want to talk about it with everybody for everybody to understand how you're feeling. Because for me,
No,
vulnerability has to be in a very safe space.
no, not necessarily.
I think so. I believe so. I will not want to be vulnerable with my security guard. No, I
Yeah,
would not
yeah,
want to be
but you see, it
vulnerable
depends on what you're
with
talking about.
my client. I would want to be vulnerable with a friend. I would want to be vulnerable with my partner,
Mm-hmm.
with my children,
Mm-hmm.
with my family. Vulnerability for me, I will want to be vulnerable with people I can trust.
Yes, but now that's good, but that is your choice.
Because I feel that if you're vulnerable with anybody, people can just use it against you.
No, so it depends. So for me, this is how, because I'm vulnerable very often, very publicly. Do you know what I mean?
But I don't think you're vulnerable about everything.
No. I'm not saying. So that's why I'm saying not everything, and that's why I said it's a choice. You
What you want
decide.
people
Yes,
to
you decide what you're vulnerable about. And yes, you can be vulnerable about everything, but you also choose where that everything falls into. So, with my friends, with you, I'll be vulnerable about things that I choose to be, and that will probably be everything.
Yes.
But if I'm in a space where I'm sharing, where I've got a room full of people, where I'm acting as an inspirational speaker, for instance, I will still be vulnerable within that setting with certain things, but again, I choose what those vulnerabilities would
Yeah.
be.
So that's
Yes.
what I was
Yeah.
trying to get at. We choose
You
what our
choose.
vulnerabilities
Yeah.
are. Because otherwise, you just go there and you're like,
No,
oh,
no,
this,
no,
that, the other.
no.
And people do use it
No,
against you. And I think
absolutely.
that we need to be very
And
clear
people
about.
will always use your weaknesses
Of
against
course.
you.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Because I think there is a great power in embracing our
Yes.
vulnerability, but it also means that we letting go. And like I go back to the fact is letting go of my failures and my whether it's my relationships, the failed projects that I have, which I don't want to, but my past failures, it's for me it is only it equates to only people I trust. And I'm very
Yeah.
clear about that. I can speak in front of an audience, but they will not see my vulnerability. I and
We're
it does
different
not
in that
mean
way.
but it doesn't mean I'm not authentic.
No, I understand
Because
that.
I'm there to
Yeah.
speak about something.
Yeah.
I'm not there to speak about my failures,
Yeah.
as an example.
Yeah.
So I think it's also I'm not hiding, and I want to be very clear about that. Does not mean I'm so open to everybody. It means I'm hiding something because I don't want to just be there to appease someone and say,
No,
oh, look at Katie,
absolutely.
she's vulnerable, and oh no, she's
Yeah.
crying, whatever. No, I saw your vulnerability the other day when we were at the content creator nomination, and we were there and we were so excited to be there. But your moment of vulnerability was when they announced that Keenan was one of the nominees. And I saw your vulnerability, but my instinct was to make sure that I don't allow anybody to see that you broke down. Purely because you do not trust what other people could. It was media there, it was there. And I remember, you remember what I was trying to do is put on your glasses on. For me, it was put on your glasses, put on these glasses on. I will not allow you to because I know how people will make it out to be.
Yes, but you see, I think we are very different in that, because in that moment, for me, so normally when I go out there, my first intention is not to break down, because exactly for that, because also I understand what I'm there for and what my purpose is and what I always say I understand the assignment. But in a situation like that where it naturally just happens, I promise you, in that situation, I probably would be fine with it. Now I know and you see your friend your friend is kicking in because you want to protect me.
Protect you. Yes, yes.
Yes.
Because I want to protect you. I don't want everybody to come around you.
Yeah.
Are you okay? Okay. I'm like, I'm
Yes.
not fucking okay,
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
thing. But
Yeah.
that for me is that protection of
Yeah.
like, you put on your glasses. So you're not pretending.
Yeah.
I'm just like, put on your glasses. I
Yes.
don't want anyone to see
But
you
you're gonna
cry.
keep me together.
I'm going to keep it together.
But for instance, in a situation, in another scenario where I often do, I've got these wellness sessions that I do, and those are very vulnerable sharing situations. And I share of everything that I'm going through on the deepest level with whoever's in that group. And I don't know half of the people, or probably don't know anybody, but again, I understand why I'm sharing. I'm sharing because in that setting, people are there for healing, they're there for certain things. Now there could be other people there for other things. So the way I see it, there's risk attached to being vulnerable. If we go back to what we spoke about when I broke down at the content create to the nominations, and Kenan was nominated, and I broke down in that instance because firstly it was unexpected, and then breaking down for me was actually showing strength in being vulnerable, because as much as I broke down, I didn't fall apart. And showing that vulnerability shows strength in that moment. You're not trying to fight it and hold it back. Coming back to, for instance, when I share in my wellness sessions, again, it's not easy to necessarily go there and share your deepest feelings with other people. But again, it takes courage. And courage and strength is literally the same thing.
Yeah. And I think I have maybe I have my own challenges on that, because I don't want to share too much with the world. My world, my life is an open book, but I don't like to delve into, you know, this weakness and this sadness and, this has happened to me and whatever. I want to know, I'm here now. How do I move forward? So for me, learning vulnerability is, again, for me, it's, I wouldn't do it in the wellness thing,
Yes.
right? So I want to be vulnerable to people that matter. And with business, it's a little bit easier from a vulnerability perspective, is because if you're having a bad week personally, I'm able to say to my clients, I'm having a shitty week due to these personal reasons. And, I'm going through a breakup. I'm feeling depressed. I'm having some anxiety about, a project that I have to deliver on. And please allow me to just deliver this on. So that vulnerability works for me because I'm authentic.
Yes.
I am honest.
And it matters because those are people that are dependent on you for certain things. And you feel like if you come clean and tell them, and you don't try and just over deliver and make it work.
Including, I mean, I'm a leader in an organization, including my team. They will know when I'm having a bad day, a bad week. I will phone Matthew and I'm saying, this is what I'm going through. I'll send him a message. It's like, our moons are aligned, or we will clearly sync our periods together, which I don't have anymore. But he would know that how I'm feeling. And I could be vulnerable with him. So they would know if they expect something from me today, they might not get it because this is how I'm feeling. And it's the same with me with them. If I know what they're going through, there's no expectations for them to deliver something on that day, because it's again a consciousness and a self-awareness that I have. So I think from a business perspective, vulnerability is not about, oh my God, this is how much money I've made, this is how much money it's really about that kind of thing,
But that's important because, Katie, that is so if you come back to me, what you've just explained actually then applies to me, because what do I do? This is, and I don't want to say I'm going to share just because I see it as my job, but my passion and what I have decided as my purpose is to share my life experiences to impact the lives of others and help them through difficulties, which, and once you understand clearly what is it that gives my life meaning,
Mm-hmm.
then you decide where you have the boundaries for that, or what you're openly going to share, not. So I think it's not this is better than that, or that is better.
No.
I think it is, again, as you said in the beginning, it's a choice.
The one thing I've learned is that I've never been able to be vulnerable in a relationship
Mm,
because I don't know. It's like I just need to be
mm,
like I'm the
mm,
shits and
mm,
blah 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 whatever. And I've never. And the one thing I've learned is, which is what I promised to
mm,
do to myself, is in my next relationship, is allow myself to be vulnerable. So if I'm seeing someone and he was like, how was your day, as an
yeah.
example, and I was like, well, I had a shitty day. I've had this, or whatever. But I would say to him, but really, it doesn't really matter, because what can
Mm,
you do about it?
mm.
So for me, it's like,
You want to do it differently now?
no, that was my response. It's
Oh,
like,
that was
or
okay.
my thought process is like, if I'm going to tell you this is what happened to me, what can you do about it? You can't really do jack shit about it,
Okay.
right? So
So
I'm like,
you were trying to be badass.
I'm trying to be badass, yeah. So I'm like, but I'm going to tell you, oh, this has happened, this is blah,
Mm,
blah, blah, and then I'm going to like, but you can't do anything about it.
mm,
Now, I believe if I do it differently, is that I don't have an expectation for that person to do something about it, because they can't.
mhm,
I would want them to just, you know, hug me and say, I'm sure whatever decision you make or whatever comes out of this will work to your benefit. And I think that is what I would allow myself, that, and not be, oh my, not be so aggressive
mm,
and say, well, you can't really do anything about it,
mm.
so why
Which
am
is
I
actually
telling
the
you?
new badass, eh?
So this is the new badass, is being the vulnerable. Yes.
Yeah,
And I think that for me is I've learned that to have a successful relationship, vulnerability is an
it's
important
very
part of it.
important.
I think I have learned that I don't have to be tough all the time.
Yes. I was gonna say that, my friend, because you do have that. Because that's all you've known. That is how you got not raised necessarily, but what you learned and you've explained that to us. So what you're doing now is you're breaking down those barriers of, I need to be tough, I need to be this, I need to. You actually can just melt away into somebody's arms. Do you know that?
Okay, I received that.
Yeah,
I
just
received
receive
that.
that.
Do you think that men allow themselves to be vulnerable?
Let me tell you what I think. I don't think it's a man woman thing, and I do think because women, I don't even know. I believe that.
Because men don't like to cry. They don't like to be seen as weak.
But is it like that really? You see, this is the thing. I think
I don't want a guy to cry around me. I
no,
don't know
I'm
what to do
happy
with
with a
him.
man crying
I
around
don't
me.
know
I
what to
think
do with
I
him.
think
Like, figure
oh my
yourself
God,
out.
I think it's the most amazing thing to see a man actually show some emotion.
Look, I mean, if he's lost somebody, yes. But I mean, if he's lost
No.
a deal, I don't want him to cry. You
I
know what I
tell you,
mean?
no, there's nothing more attractive to me than a man. I'm not talking about, look, I like a manly man. I really do. But nothing makes a man more manly than showing a little bit of tears and saying, you know what? I actually just need to cry now.
I don't know about that. I don't know. I don't know. I don't
No,
want a guy to cry about stuff.
I'm not talking about somebody that just sits around and cries all the time. I think there are moments.
What do I do with a guy that's going to sit and cry?
No, Katie, there are
Okay,
moments.
what am I meant to do with the guy that's sitting and crying and
Console
having a
him.
moment? In what way? Hug him?
You hold him and tell him how much you care about him and how much you
Okay.
love him and how much you feel his emotions with him, because he's probably going to cry when it is something really, really overwhelming. He's not going to be crying over, the fact that something silly happened. I think when men cry, they're really at a point where they need some TLC,
Well, I
which
only
we don't give them enough of.
well, I only want a man to cry if he's lost something really deep, and maybe a dog or a person. But anything else, like, dude, he needs to man up.
Okay, listen, let's stay back here. What I'm hearing you say is that because I'm incapable of being vulnerable most of the time.
Not incapable, don't want to
Oh,
be.
no, okay. Okay, let me rephrase that. Because I struggle sometimes to be vulnerable,
Okay.
I am going to struggle sometimes with a man being vulnerable, and I'm not going to accept that because I don't know how to do that myself.
Interesting perspective, but I do agree. but my man would know that I am there for him because I'm that girl that's always shows up, that's always there for people.
And I believe you, my friend. You're an awesome human being. But really,
Yeah.
honestly, on a serious basis, I think that and I think you are working on it. You are really getting there, and you are. I've seen you vulnerable, but you always bring in the man thing. How do you think men are going to, cut them some slack?
I do cut.
Guys do know how to be vulnerable. I promise you.
Okay.
I've seen men, and I think when they do that, we need to make it okay for them. We need to allow them the space to be vulnerable. But I think a, a big reason, or part of the reason why men don't always show that, is because they don't think it will be a safe space for them.
Yeah, I think when a man is vulnerable with women, he needs to understand that she is there for him. I mean, without a doubt, that she is there for him. Am I right?
No, you're not right. He needs to understand that she is there for him. But we want to hear, I love you, darling. We don't just think like, oh, well, I know he's there for me. Come on, Katie. Come on. Let's bring this back.
Okay, let's bring this back to the fact is that I don't want to disappoint a partner,
When
right?
a man, no, let's start again. When a man is showing vulnerability, whether he is trying to tell you something, whether he's breaking down crying, whether he's just sitting there and saying, I need you to listen to me, it doesn't matter. But when you are seeing that he is showing signs of vulnerability, your answer to me is like, he needs to know that I'm and
I got
understand that I'm
him.
here.
I got him.
But how does he know? Because he's also just a human being. Why do we think
I know.
that they need to understand that we're there for them, but we don't just understand that they're there for us?
Okay, my brother's gonna kill me for using this this one.
Please
right?
let him.
But he's gonna kill me because I hear what you're saying, and I just see my mother in me. It's like I got no time for all of this, kind of thing. I'm there for people. People know I'm there for them. Da da da. But I remember when my brother lost his wife
Yeah.
in a horrible car accident, and I remember he was hopeless. He was just crying and he's broken down in the other room. And my mom comes to me and say, "Go, your brother's crying," and I'm like. But you are the mother. You should be making him feel okay.
Exactly.
You've outsourcing
Exactly.
you're outsourcing the motherly duties to me.
Yeah.
And I think exactly that's how I am. I'm like, she's telling me my brother's crying, you go, and I'm thinking about mom, that's your son. You should be going and making him feel okay.
We've gone through this now with you, and I want us to kind of calm them down. Work in your workspace with work colleagues, you can be vulnerable. And that's working for you, it's successful. With your friends, you are vulnerable, and that's working for you, and you know how to show up there. You mentioned something else: work, friends,
Family.
So there was one place where you're saying that you don't know how to show up as vulnerable or how to receive vulnerability, and that was your relationships. So I'm just going to leave it. Let's ponder on that a bit. I want you to unpack that for me, for us, for the audience.
I think it's where so the audience can also learn for themselves as well, because we're learning together.
Yes.
It's really about talking about the mistakes that I've made. And I think, I don't know, maybe when I'm with a partner, it's like I don't want him to know that I've made mistakes. I want him to see me as perfect. So,
Why?
and I think that's again, it's like I want him to see me as perfect. So I don't want to talk about the mistakes. I don't want to share details that I normally keep private because, again, I would be I'll be looked at as flawed or shameful. Feeling difficult emotions as well, shame, grief, fear. Those are the things that I've not been able to share.
But I want to interrupt you, because now going back again, but you don't feel that is going to happen when you share, because work is a big deal. The whole idea with work is that we always need to look strong and together and all of that, but you seem to not feel that you're going to be viewed like that from work colleagues.
Yeah, that's a point that
Is
you
it the
make.
intimacy thing? Is it
No,
the...
it has nothing. It has nothing to do with the intimacy. I feel that it's maybe a level of rejection that I might get from him, that I'm not good enough. It really sucks because I'm a badass everywhere else.
Yeah, but maybe it's the pain that would come out of that.
Yes. And again, it's with relationships, I like to be seen as I don't know. Well, now I'm not, but I just always wanted to be perfect in a
Mm.
relationship. And
But you're not there anymore. I know you've kind of moved on,
oh,
or you're still there.
darling, I'm not
You are.
there anymore.
So we're talking about how it used to be, and probably you're still going through a transformation. You're still changing a few things about that.
Yeah, very much so. And I
Because let
think,
me tell you, Katie, for me, like if I had to get into another relationship right now, I'm bringing it all on. You know, I literally believe I can be completely vulnerable now with a man.
I think I
So
will,
if there's anybody out there, you know,
I think I'll also get there, hopefully. But I think I've never wanted to be, now I'm allowing myself to be a beautiful mess.
yes. Now there we go.
And that is what, because
Yeah.
I've always wanted to be a perfect person. I've just flawed. And I remember once, one of my partners says, "Can you put your balls back?"
Yeah.
Because I'm like, "Oh my God,"
Yeah.
because I'm never vulnerable. And he's like, "Can you just, tuck your balls in?" And I'm like, "What does that
Yeah.
mean?" But I also realized, oh my God, this is like really, because I just try to be so tough that my partners see it. And now, and it's purely because of rejection.
And maybe you remember early on you used that word and you said you don't like that intimidating word. And maybe that's where that comes from. And I think we've all done it. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. We need to ask men. We need to have men on this with us here in studio. But I don't know if men actually constantly want this powerful together woman. Maybe they want somebody that can just be vulnerable and actually accept them with their vulnerabilities too, because I don't think they want to be perfect
Yeah.
either. But maybe what we put the pressure on is for them to show up as perfect all
But
the
I think
time.
as from a partnership perspective, I think my vulnerability was a sign of inadequacy
Mm.
and fragility, which I sometimes, I don't want to be seen as that fragile girl.
Mm.
Maybe I should now, but I
Mm.
think that was for me. Has been my biggest challenge, and
Katie, a good balance. A
yes,
good balance of all of that stuff. I think the guy would be really happy.
but I think the guy. So I think it would be, if I allow myself to be vulnerable, I'm inviting someone to my inner world that is, now I realize, is full of compassion,
Mm.
is full of empathy, full of
You are all
understanding.
of those
And
things.
I think if only I let my guard down, I think I would have had better relationships, because those are the things that I am so proud of myself with,
Mm.
because it's a natural thing that
Mm.
has transformed over the years. And I'm somebody that is there for
Mm.
everybody. And if I allow that person to see all of this in me, maybe he'll stick around.
I think that's true. What you're saying now is not just true for you, it's true for everybody. Because if we all had to get to that point where we're trying to get to now, life would be quite pretty. And
Yeah, because I think that's exactly what I thought, that if
that's why relationships have so many problems.
well, I just think that when I felt like I was exposing uh my weaknesses, it would have made me undesirable. And I think this is a whole
I
conversation
don't,
for,
yeah,
but I
but
think for me as a
and it's not
partner, it's like he wouldn't find me
attractive and
attractive enough.
exciting and all of
Yes, and
that.
I think
Well,
that's
look, Cody, if you're sitting on the couch or lying in bed and crying the whole day, he's definitely leaving you.
which
So,
I.
so I'm saying balance.
So what do you want?
Balance.
You're telling me I must be vulnerable. So now you're telling me he's going to leave me if I cry.
No, 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 no. I'm saying to you, balance. You cannot also be a complete mess 24/7.
I'm a beautiful mess.
Not 24/7.
But I think embracing vulnerability grants us the ability
Yeah.
to navigate our emotions
Yeah.
more effectively,
Mm.
allowing us to genuinely experience and acknowledge our true feelings instead of disregarding them.
Mm.
By embracing vulnerability, we tap into the reservoir of authenticity within ourselves.
Within.
So we no longer suppress our genuine reactions, but rather we confront them head
Mhm.
on. And I think the level of vulnerability enables us to connect with our core selves,
Mm.
unfiltered and uninhibited.
Okay. So the homework then for you, Katie, is to work on your own vulnerability first before we go on to anybody else's. Yeah?
I got this.
Good. Homework set?
I got this. You're going to help me through this.
Thank you for joining us on Outspoken Owls, where life's a hoot.